So sales since January have been off about 20% through the event, and we're trying to figure out by looking at it what went wrong. We've actually done better with conversions, but the total number of people at the event have been down. Last week I was on vacation in London, and it's always good to get some time away and think, usually. So what we came back with, the big challenge is like, how do we get more people to the event without affecting front-end return on ad spend? Every month we spend somewhere between $80,000 to $100,000 in ad spend to fill our event. And the key is that we need to get 50 cents of every dollar that we spend on the front end back. How do you do that? How can we do that and get more people to the event? That was the challenge. And I kept thinking about this and walking around London and thinking about it more. And I finally came up with the idea that we do need a lower price. Now, this goes against everything that I had ever learned from Dan Kennedy, everything I'd ever learned from Russell, but we need to lower the front end price. But how do we keep ROAS the same? So what we decided to do, usually the bumps are half price of whatever the ticket is, right? So if the ticket is 97, the bumps are 47. Our ticket was 197 and our bumps were 97. Conversion was about 60% of people took the bumps. So what I wanted to test this time was moving around our ticket price, changing it down to $97, but keeping the bumps as close as we could to that and seeing what conversion was. Now, we also changed the focus. Instead of just being how to do single family, we are now talking more about multifamily. The biggest thing that people have told us that they want is, how do we do multifamily? How do I convert from single family into multifamily? Or how do I just start with a small apartment building? Because that's really where the wealth is. So we changed our front end webinar around to talk about that. We changed about 10% of the content in the webinar to focus on multifamily, and we changed ticket price to 97 with the bumps at 77. And what happened? That's the question, right? Well, our ROAS usually is 0.48 to 0.52. That means that we get 48 cents to 52 cents back for every dollar we spend on ads. So how did it go this time? Did it work? That's the big question. Well, Wednesday's webinar came in small sample size of 1, but our ROAS was 0.54. So we actually went up slightly by lowering ticket price, and we got twice as many sales as we normally would. So we'll have more people at this event, which is awesome, because this event, we're changing about 25% of the content towards multifamily. And we have done really well with sales by changing that. We changed that on the last event. So that was the first really big challenge of this week. Now, the second one's, man, so many different things going on. What do you do when your laptop quits? Well, my screen broke. It started getting these lines and it was real fuzzy and couldn't see anything. Apple, to their credit, I called them up. They told me to bring it into the Apple store. They fixed it in 4 hours. We dropped it off and they said, it's going to take us 3 to 4 days. They sent me a text 3 hours later and said it was done and I could pick it up. So kudos to Apple. They have, moving over to Apple, I have to say, has been a game changer. I was a IBM guy for 25 years. I used to build my own PCs. Last one I built cost me about $6,000. I built the biggest, best computer that I could. MacBook Pro puts it all to shame, and it's so much easier to use. It just works. So huge shout out to Apple. Other things going on this week. The book that I'm reading right now is called Die with Zero, and it's an argumentative book. So the guy puts forth the idea that once your needs are taken care of, once you make enough money to cover your needs, you should spend everything above that. You shouldn't save it. Part of me agrees with that, and part of me really disagrees. I was raised, my dad used to sit me down, and out of every dollar, we put 10% to the church, 10% to long-term savings, and then I was left with 80% to spend. And that has treated me really well. I believe in saving. What Bill Perkins, the author, puts forward is it's better to have experiences now than to save so that you give money away when you're dead. And I feel like, in theory, that sounds good, but we don't ever want to be stressed about savings. Dan Kennedy always talked coming from a safe harbor place, which means your house is paid for, your car is paid for, you have some money in the bank, and then it's going to change your whole attitude. I agree with that. I think that expanding your means is always good, right? Live within your means, but focus on expanding your means. Don't spend everything that you make. I've found that putting money in savings and putting money in investments makes me sleep a whole lot better at night and changes the way I approach problems. I did this when I had no money. I would put a little bit in savings, and it made me feel differently in here, which allowed me to approach the world differently. Now, I will say I love experiences. I've traveled all over the world, and I did that on shoestring budgets. So Bill's talking about having experiences and pushing forth, like forcing yourself not to save every penny. Now, he does say like you should have your house paid for, you should have your basic needs paid for. I think then having some real estate that throws off minimum passive income. If you have real estate that's throwing off $2 or $3 a month, then you can spend everything above that because the real estate is going to cover it, as long as, I would say, have your house paid for, or at least have a good house and a low house payment. Those are my thoughts. It's a good book. I love reading things that I don't necessarily agree with that make me think. So great book. The other book that I read while I was on vacation was Jeff Bezos' The Everything Store. It is crazy to see how he grew that business. If you're looking for a good business book, if you like business autobiographies, highly recommend it. All right, so the challenges this week were getting more people to the event while maintaining ROAS. We've done pretty well on it. I'll keep you guys updated. But the real goal at the end of this is to hit 150K in sales every single month. And we usually do like somewhere between 120 and 160. So the challenge is, can we grow that by getting more people to the event? Well, we've got a webinar today, a webinar Wednesday, a webinar next Sunday, and then the event. So stay tuned and we will see how that goes. We've also got a launch coming up 4 weeks from this coming week. So about 4.5 weeks, we're launching an entirely new value ladder, a new low-end product, and a new high-end product. Stay tuned for that. It's an exciting time. We got a lot of balls in the air.